John, Kim, you guys ready to roll?
We are.
Okay. Everybody else?
Are you ready? Do we need to talk about anything before?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Fred, you ready? All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Rhinebeck for August 15th, 2018. Our first item of business is to review the minutes from the July 18th meeting. And has everybody had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from July 18th?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, concerns, corrections?
I had one addition
Okay.
toward the end that I discussed with Chris.
Thank you.
It's on page 3 where you read the resolution granting the requested variances. I just thought we should add, after seconded by Catherine Clark and passed with agreement of all present, and then start the next paragraph. Scott Bergen then made a motion to adjourn the meeting,
Okay.
and that was seconded by Tim Allen.
Okay.
Brook. So I think Chris has those.
You have that? That's fair. Okay. With those corrections, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 18th, 2018 meeting. Do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Abstaining, I wasn't here.
Okay. Passed. All right. The next order of business, we have one item of new business, which is the Rock Ledge application, case number 968. Is there someone here for that? Okay, and if you could just step up to the mic and explain to us what the application is about.
Okay, good evening. My name is Victoria Polidoro from Rodenhausen Shaw LLC, here on behalf of Hudson Valley Rhinebeck LLC. We're here because we are appealing the July 2nd, 2018 determination of ZEO Trimble with respect to the meaning of guest rooms in your zoning law. Your zoning law doesn't define what a guest room is, nor does it define accommodation or suite. Mr. Trimble reviewed the zoning law and determined that a guest room was something other than a suite or accommodation, and that therefore a guest room, for the purposes of my client's inn, is only limited to a single bedroom. My clients had originally proposed 12 guest units with a total of 16 bedrooms. So some of those units would have had more than one bedroom, which is not unusual if you look around at accommodations throughout Rhinebeck, at the Beekman, et cetera. There are, you can often find suites with more than one bedroom. Sometimes you can find a suite that has a bedroom and a separate sitting area. So right now, the outcome of Mr. Trimble's determination is that each keyed unit behind every door is just one single bedroom. One of the interesting things about the code as far as this inn is that there's no limit on the number of people that can stay at the inn. For a bed and breakfast, the code does limit the number of people. So theoretically, we could have many bedrooms with multiple beds. And what we're looking for here is an interpretation that, it would be okay to put up a wall between a bed. You don't have to have a bedroom with three beds in it or 2 beds if you don't want it. It's really about the ability to design the guest room for maximum enjoyment. These are proposed to be high-end units. Again, there's only 12 of them, so, this is a higher clientele that's going to be coming up and visiting the site, staying in a small local inn. Even if you're traveling with children, you sometimes want some privacy, a separate bedroom. So we believe that guest room is really something equivalent to an individual keyed unit, where every unit has its own key, but then what's behind that door when you walk in can be configured differently for different uses. Some could have a living space with a bedroom to the side. Others could perhaps have 2 bedrooms with a living space. Again, the code limits us to 12 guest rooms regardless of the configuration, so there is a limit there. In an appeal, the Zoning Board of Appeals stands in the shoes of the zoning enforcement officer. So you have his opinion, but it's your obligation to review the code, review the language, and make the determination that you feel ought to have been made in that situation. You may find that he's right, or you may find that you want to amend that interpretation. You may find you agree with us. So that is your task. Our goal tonight is for you to accept the application as complete and to schedule a public hearing.
Okay, so there's 12 rooms, maybe 4 of those rooms are pretty good size, and you'd like to add bedrooms within those 4 bedrooms.
Right, we have the adaptive reuse of an existing historic structure. And so our client has a unique situation where we have a building that is of a certain size. And so we can put 12 rather large one-bedrooms in it, or we could put 12 rooms and use the space a little more wisely.
And the difference basically is your interpretation is 16 beds versus 12 that Michael...
Well, we're looking for an interpretation that a guest room is not necessarily limited to you walk in and that's it, it's just a bedroom. We think that there's some room for flexible configurations where you walk in, there could be a sitting area and then a bedroom, which would allow someone to have a couch and then a separate sitting room. Again, we're looking to have high-end luxury suites is what we were hoping to put into the project.
Is this on town sewer?
It's not on town sewer.
Sorry, village sewer?
It is not on village sewer. It is an old estate that was used by Daytop, so it does have an existing sewer system, which is more than adequate to handle 12 guest rooms. I think we have it in the papers, but at some point, this building was being used by 60 people.
Yeah, I saw 50.
50
There was
people,
a reference made
plus
on-
employees.
Yeah.
So we are before the planning board for site plan and special use permit approval, and we are upgrading the sewer system, but it's not an issue of capacity.
Victoria, is there a floor plan in front of the planning board?
So it's interesting. We did submit a floor plan to the planning board, or we submitted plans for the 16 bedrooms to the planning board, and it was rejected by Mr. Trimble because he said it didn't comply. So we had to resubmit a plan for 12 bedrooms. So right now, the planning board is moving forward with the 12 bedrooms with the hope that we can amend that application should we get a favorable interpretation from your board for the 16.
But both scenarios exist.
So we had submitted the 16, and it wasn't permitted to go forward.
I'd like to get a copy. I'd like to see what the 16 you propose looks like versus what the 12
We're
is.
happy to submit it to you.
Okay. I would like to have that as part of the application. That doesn't mean we don't accept it, but
Both alternatives? or
both
ju-
alternatives
yes.
I'd like to see. And, juxtapose against each other.
In any of these guest accommodations, is there room for a kitchen? Is there any kitchen planned? Are these ever mini apartments? Or is that just not part of your proposal?
So I don't have the floor plan with me. I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't believe there's a kitchen, but I will certainly get you the floor plan, and that will
Answer that, yeah.
That will answer that.
All right, from reviewing the papers, I think I have a pretty good idea of what your request is and what the issue is.
Okay, the only thing I would like to clarify is that I think the application mentioned that there's an alternative, that you're applying for an area variance in the alternative.
That was, the board sent that back.
Okay.
We had wanted to, in the event that you upheld DEO's determination that there could only be 12 guest rooms, we had wanted to apply for an area variance so that we could increase the number of guest rooms to 16. But the Zoning Board of Appeals has returned that application saying that they wanted to do the interpretation first and that we could resubmit once you made your decision if necessary.
Okay,
Do I
okay.
have-
I mean, I agree. I think that's easier for us to just take on one issue at a time. I just wanted to make sure that the record was clear.
Chris, am I misstating
No,
that?
the zoning enforcement officer felt that that was the best way to handle it.
Okay, good.
But the
Okay.
zoning board didn't return that. The planning
The
board did?
planning board
Planning board
did.
did.
The planning-
No, the zoning enforcement officer.
Okay,
Right,
so
not the zoning
we
law.
submitted it to the zoning board, but apparently, the zoning enforcement officer must have returned it before you saw it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, but there are still a few lingering references in the materials that we
Well,
did.
right, I mean,
That's why-
we submitted as a packet, and
Yep,
so,
yep.
right. So at this point, we are not pursuing area variances. We reserve the right to do so if we need to in the future. But the area variance, well, I guess they both set a precedent, but, we thought this was, the better way to proceed at this point.
Okay.
I have a question. I want to make sure I'm understanding the discussion right. So in the second scenario, the area variance, which we would potentially grant, would be because you'd increase the size of the building.
The building is the size that it is.
Okay.
Which is part of what's driving this. We have a certain amount of space that we can use for this inn.
But the number of bedrooms, the 12 or 16, would be ours to grant that as a variance? It's not a usage? It's
Well,
would be a
we
dimensional.
propose that it's an
Okay.
area variance.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So
I
once
think
we
I've
get
got it.
past the interpretation, then we have to deal with the variance.
Okay,
Right.
Okay.
thank you.
You're going to sign this too?
I'll take it. I think it's been a while for me, so I can take this. I think there's enough here to, consider the application. What does the rest of the board think?
Well, I just want one clarification. If you want us to make an interpretation, but it's not a bedroom with a entrance room, you want to consider 2 bedrooms as an accommodation. or
So, I mean,
As a guest room could be 2 bedrooms.
there's multi-steps. Right now, what the determination says is, given that the town zoning code uses the term accommodations to refer to suite-like facilities, I find that the term guest room is not the equivalent of suite or accommodations. Therefore, Country Inn 1 is limited to 12 bedrooms, although how those 12 bedrooms are configured is not specified in the zoning law. So we're really looking for guidance, because ideally, they would like to have, the first question would be, could you have a situation where you walk into a living room and then have a bedroom to the side? Would that be permitted, or is this so strict?
Did the
that it
zoning
doesn't-
officer rule on that, to walk into a sitting area and then a bedroom? Or did-
This is what it says, and that's part of the reason why we're looking for more clarification. We don't want to, the public's very interested in this, and we don't want to go down a path and then at the last minute have someone say, after we've spent lots of time working on a certain plan, no, you have to reconfigure it to only be 12 bedrooms. So we're looking at...
But
at
are
this-
some of those, room number 5, could it possibly be 2 bedrooms?
Right, so
Yes or
So
no?
it's 2-part. So right now, all this says is it has to be 1 bedroom. So you guys could decide as a board that you could have a sitting room with 1 bedroom.
All right,
and that
that's
could be
A.
a guest room.
That's A. We'll look at that, whether we have a sitting room and a
Correct.
bedroom. What is B?
Or you could decide that any configuration behind a keyed unit, you have your key, you check in,
And you have a suite,
and
say.
you could decide that once you check into that keyed unit, there's a lot of flexibility to how it's set up, and that, that's not covered by the zoning law.
No, but we would have to define that, I would think, in our
Yeah,
findings.
I mean,
Yeah.
to define it to describe it more flatly, you
Yes.
have to decide what the term guest room means.
Right.
Right.
Thank
Could be
you.
a single bed or 5
Could be
bedrooms
many,
and a
could be
suite.
many things. There are some definitions that are being proposed here by the applicant. There's a definition that's been espoused by the zoning enforcement officer. There may be others. So your job is going to figure out what we'll do on this is, step 1 is going to be to gather information. You're going to have you have information from the applicant. You've requested floor plans, so to the extent it's germane to your determination, you're going to be able to see exactly what the applicant has in mind with regard to the plans that may be in front of the planning board. You'll receive comment from the public at the public hearing. We will provide you with some guidance on the rules in the law that apply to how statutes get interpreted. And then you're going to apply those laws to the information that you have and to the wording that's in the statute.
And the reason we're focusing on the interpretation of guest room is because the statute doesn't say a country inn can have 12 guest rooms or suites.
That's right. It just says it can have
Yes,
12 guest rooms.
Okay.
Yep. And then there are, you'll have to look at this in the context of the entire zoning law, and there's some other terminology used in the law. We'll have to look at that. But the reason this is in front of you is that there isn't an obvious answer to this question.
Can
Is
there
the
be,
issue- I'm sorry.
can there be a look at other interpretations?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Is there any, it's such a unique situation, I doubt there's any case law of any sort or any precedent from other municipalities. to look at.
There might be. We haven't looked to see whether
That's what you're getting at?
I mean, hospitality is pretty common use. It wouldn't shock me if there are cases out there. We'll have to
All
look.
right, I think we really need to look at that, too.
I mean, what's interesting about this is it's so specific to your zoning law and how terms are used in your zoning law. So, it would be useful to look at other communities, but you really have to look at how the different terms are used throughout your particular zoning law.
But I think what Tim is alluding to, if there are other municipalities which have similar wording that could help us, or, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a decision, you're not going to be out there on your own. The requirement for zoning boards of appeal to interpret zoning laws happens all the time, and there's a structure and there are rules that the courts have set forth, and Kim and I will brief you on that so that you can make your decision within the structure of those rules.
Thank you.
John, what about intent? Is there a way to consider the...
Yeah, I mean, intent is one of the things that you look at when you're trying to interpret a statute. The question will be, whether there's evidence of intent to be found, and sometimes when you're only looking into one very small dusty corner of a big zoning law, sometimes that isn't out there, yeah. But we'll see, those are things that, I don't know, we've had instances where you go back, you look at minutes, there is some discussion about, at the town board level of a particular provision and why they want to do it, or pulling out. Sometimes when you find the local law that gets filed with the Department of State that has a little bit of a preface, there's some insight there. So it's definitely something to be considering, and we'll help you try to find whatever's out there.
We do address a particular aspect of intent in our papers, and I know that your attorney will advise you on that. So we do have some discussion in there.
And the applicant, may have more information for you at the public hearing. There'll be a presentation, and
Right,
so
we'll
we're
bring
just
forward
really
some of the floor plans.
getting started right now.
Right, I think we have enough to get started. That's my opinion, but I want to hear from the rest of the gang here.
Well, yes, subject to what you would ask for, right?
Subject to what I've asked for, I'm willing to accept the application. What about the rest of the gang?
Yes.
Yes?
Okay, the only other thing I would suggest is
Well-
to set a deadline for the applicant to file the floor plans so that those will be available to the public a week or two before the meeting, so that they can comment on, include those plans if necessary in the
Yeah.
public comment.
Victoria, I assume that can be done pretty quickly.
Yeah, we
You
can
have-
have the art, yes, well, we can get them by the end of the week.
By the end, that's more than fast enough.
Yep.
Okay. All right, then I make a motion that we accept the application with the additional information, which will be supplied, say, within the next week.
Yes.
Right.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. I see from the grid that we have that the recommendation is that this matter be classified as a type 2 matter under seeker, under 617.5C31. And looking at that section, I think that's exactly right.
Yep,
It
for
says
an interpretation.
existing code, rule, or regulation. So, based upon the recommendation of council and just reading seeker, I would make the motion that we deem this to be a type 2 action under 617.5C31. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. And then we need to set a public hearing date. And the next date is the 19th? September 19th. Is that something you can
Yes.
attend?
That
works with your schedule?
Either George or I will be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, again, I make a motion that we set the public hearing for September 19th, 2018. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it doesn't appear that any referrals are needed, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yep.
All right, so I think our work here is done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
Victoria. All right, we have one public hearing, and that's the Boylan case. Is there anybody here for that? And if you could come on up.
Oh, look at that.
Wow, props and everything.
Okay.
And if you could just identify yourself and speak into the microphone so that Fred can pick it up. Is there anyone here for... I guess there's no one here.
Doesn't look so.
Good evening, my name is Christina Ducharme, Christina Ducharme Architecture, and we're here to present to the public this lovely project.
Okay, if you could just go over briefly what the project is. I know we don't...
Sure, the owner of the project is here, and I believe he presented to you.
He did.
The last month. We're here for an area variance for an addition to the existing residence. This is 631 River Road, large parcel, and the footprint of the addition is approximately 1,000 square feet, and we have a model to present to you.
Okay, great. Okay,
Speaker. So this is the existing house.
okay.
And addition.
And can you show that to the public as well on TV?
So this is the existing house and the addition of
And as our recollection, there is an addition, but that'll be taken down.
Yes, there's a removal. We've applied to planning board for a demolition permit,
Okay.
which was the catalyst to the project. Is there's an existing addition to the building that was in poor condition, and that needs to be removed, and that's what has brought us to the proposed design.
Okay. And I'm sure it's in the application, what is the size of what is being removed, the addition that's being removed?
In the architectural plans, it's a very small addition. It's roughly 100 square feet.
How many?
100 square feet, roughly.
Okay.
The addition being removed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's a salt box, so the basic floor is 10 by 28. It's actually
Okay, so
280 square feet.
Okay.
But that includes the kitchen and the bathroom, the only plumbing that's in the house.
All right.
Just for the record, that was Mr. Boylan who was commenting on it. Just How does this face, like if you're looking at it from River Road?
River Road would be parallel to the addition.
Okay.
It's not visible from River Road.
Okay.
Small amount is visible in winter.
Yeah.
So there's, with the new addition, there's no change in the well and the septic system? It's just redoing that plumbing?
That's
part of
correct.
the new addition?
That's correct.
Oh, yeah. And this is not a small parcel of land,
Correct.
yeah, over 600 acres.
Almost 700. Wow.
All right, I don't have any questions, and it was pretty well briefed the first time around, and you filled in some holes. I think we have a pretty good idea of what you want to do and exactly how it's going to look, and thank you very much for the model. Very well done.
And the rendering.
And the rendering, yes. To the board members, anybody have any questions, concerns? Richard?
No, there's no other way of doing this. I mean, it's what you need to do. I'm looking at my notes.
And Catherine, I think the two of you are the ones who are
Yep.
assigned to the project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, have we heard from WAC?
Yes.
Okay, oh, do I have that already? Okay, thank you.
You ever heard from the planning board as well?
I have just an aesthetic observation. I don't think it's in our purview, but I'll make the comment anyway. Just that the addition somehow, there might be I'd like to see the addition, if I was designing it, like 1 foot lower than the main house somehow, so that you could tell that, but that's not the business of the variance.
Duly noted. The addition is going to be made out of post and beam structure,
Yeah.
so that there is going to be somewhat of a distinction
Inside.
inside
Yeah.
between the original and the new structure.
And I think it's already been addressed, but Chris, we got both referrals back, right?
Yep.
So we're set there.
And one question, from the road, what can you see of the house and what can you see of the proposed addition?
We submitted photos.
17-week.
Terrence, if you could come up, just if you do speak, if you could come up, that would be great, just so it's picked up by the mic.
I would love to join Christine because I think she's done a brilliant job of making this look like it would have always been there. For 17 weeks a year, you can see the house from the road. Most from April to late March until November, you couldn't find it except by the driveway sign.
Right.
So it's really not visible, nor is it visible from any neighbors. In the winter, when the trees are all bare, you can see it as it goes by, but it's not really, I mean, you catch it. It's nice.
And the addition is in back of the house?
Right.
Not on
Right.
the road?
In the back of the
Okay,
house.
thank you.
Yes.
But parallel to.
So parallel to.
So you could conceivably see it.
Conceivably see the addition, yes.
Thank you.
For 17 weeks a year.
Has anybody done a site inspection?
No, we
Okay.
are going to.
So, for my purposes, I have enough information to consider this. We do need to do a site inspection, and what would be the best number to schedule that?
We will make ourselves available.
Is there, I assume there's a number, usually there is on the application,
I'm sorry.
The phone number.
phone number,
Yes.
in order to contact you on the application?
There are two, and we will accommodate.
Okay. and probably not all of us will be out there, but certainly a couple, to do a walk around. All right.
Is this coming Sunday good? And any time on afternoon? Is that good? That's good.
Could it be late afternoon?
Late afternoon?
Anytime after 12 o'clock.
4 o'clock? Is that good? 5?
I have to take somebody to 5.
5 o'clock, all right, so 5 o'clock on this coming Sunday. Great, okay.
All right.
And Scott, do you want to just, officially open the public hearing? This has just been you haven't actually opened the public hearing yet.
Oh, okay. Well, do I usually do that? I know I always close them.
Well, I think you usually do just a motion to, do you do a motion to public
It's a
hearing?
good practice.
All right, I will begin the practice. I guess I'll open the public hearing, even though we've already conducted the public hearing.
Well, it's like, I thought this was more of a presentation
Yeah.
to the public hearing, but in case anybody wants to say anything.
Anyway, the public hearing is open. We've received a lot of information pre-official public hearing opening, but I think we can adopt that at this point in time. It's all on tape, and we've heard the testimony and seen the evidence. I don't need any more information to consider the application. Does anybody else?
No, I don't.
Have any concerns, questions, requirements for more information? Okay, because I haven't heard anything, I will make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second that.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have 62 days from today to draft a resolution. Normally, we do it by the next public hearing, so I would anticipate that Catherine and Richard will have a resolution to read at the September 19th meeting. You don't have to be here. If you want to, you are welcome. But I anticipate we'll have the resolution done and read, and it'll be determined on that date.
Okay, so and your protocol is not to have another presentation?
No.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Shall we go into old business? Palucci? Palucci, that would be you.
Indeed it would. Catherine already identified the only error in this draft. 13A, second paragraph. Second to last line, delete the word "not." And we have a perfect document.
That level of perfection could set a very disturbing precedent for the board.
Glad to do it.
The bar has just been raised.
Okay, everybody ready?
We're ready.
Resolution of the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Board of Appeals in the matter of the area variance application of Thomas D. Palucci, ZBA case number 965. Whereas, background, applicant is Thomas D. Palucci, referred to hereafter as the applicant. A May 15, 2018 letter from the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Department stated that the proposed structure, a 24 by 24 detached garage, would require a variance from Section 125-27A3 of the Town Zoning Code, see below. Accordingly, the applicant filed an application for an area variance, which was accepted by the ZBA on June 4th, 2018. Number 2, this involves a proposal to construct a garage on a residential lot at 287 Zipfelberg Road in the Town of Rhinebeck, known as tax parcel number 636900156571, herein after the premises. The applicant's property and proposed project is shown on a site plan dated May 15, 2017 by Thomas Daniel Palucci. Number 3, the applicant is represented by himself before this board. Number 4, the applicant seeks to construct a new garage at a location close to the public road than the single-family dwelling that currently exists on the lot. The garage will be 1.5 stories with a loft above for storage. Proposed garage will be positioned entirely in front of the house, which, although alleged to be the flattest portion of the premises, is contrary to Section 125-27A3 of the Town Zoning Code, which states that accessory structures such as garages cannot be close to the fronting street than the principal building on the lot or be located within a front yard. Number 5, applicant requires one variance for citing the garage in front of the principal dwelling. Number 6, the applicant filed an appeal with this board on June 3rd, 2018, and has paid the requisite fee. The appeal was filed within 60 days of the date of the ZEO's May 15, 2018 decision, and thus the application is timely as required by Section 125-125B of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. Number 7, on June 20th, 2018, this board deemed the application to be complete and accepted it for review. Number 8, after accepting this appeal, we determined that this matter should be classified as a Type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act because the proposed action involves granting of a variance for construction, expansion, or placement of a minor accessory structure pursuant to 6 NYCRR, Section 617(5)(c)(10). Number 9, Rhinebeck Planning Board. We determined that this application should be referred to the Rhinebeck Planning Board pursuant to Section 125-125E of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. Planning Board responded on date to be filled in. Do we have it? July 16th, 2018. Thank you. That the proposal raised no significant planning or environmental issues. Referrals are not required for the Waterfront Advisory Committee or the Conservation Advisory Board. Number 10, on August 1st, 2018, ZBA member Dave Tobias visited the applicant's property and the surrounding neighborhood to observe firsthand the site conditions, property characteristics, setting, surrounding environment, and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Did any other board member visit? Nope. While visiting the property, Mr. Tobias, I met with a neighbor across the street. She stated that she had no comments or concerns related to the project. Number 11, a public hearing on this appeal was duly advertised and opened and closed by this board on July 18, 2018. During the public hearing, there were no comments from any member of the public. Section 2, findings of fact and conclusions of law. Number 12, in our review of the variance sought, we have considered the benefit to the applicant if the area variance is granted, as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. We determined that the variance requested should be granted because there is no detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by the granting of this variance. Section 13, in our review of the variance sought, we considered the 5 factors required by 125-124C1 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law as follows. A, if the variance are granted, will they cause an undesirable change, strike B, in the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment to nearby properties? We find the answer to this question is no, because the proposed garage will be partially shielded by vegetation. It will also be located about 100 feet from the public road. We do not believe that placing the garage between the road and the house for this lot would create a negative impact to views or aesthetics. B, can the benefit sought by the appellant be achieved by some method feasible for the appellant to pursue other than the proposed variance? We find the answer to this question is no, because it appears relatively difficult, expensive, and/or inefficient to build a garage in other locations near the house. The proposed garage is planned to be on the flattest portion of the premises. Given the constraints created by the location of slopes, the well, and the septic field, there appears to be no other feasible location that the garage can be placed without an area variance. C, are the requested variances substantial? We find the answer to this question is no, because the height, size, design, external appearance of the proposed garage are not excessive, and the distance between the road and the proposed garage are in keeping with approximate neighborhood aesthetics and layout. D, will the proposed variances have an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? We find the answer to this question is no, as there would be only a small difference in any physical or environmental conditions on the neighborhood. While the board disagrees with the applicant in his suggestion, see June 3rd, 2018 letter from Palucci, that it would be difficult to gain a full view of the house and proposed garage from the street, end quote, the board believes there is sufficient distance and vegetative cover between the road and the structure so as to present no significant impact to views or neighborhood aesthetics. E, is the alleged difficulty self-created? We find the answer to this question is yes, as is the case with most situations involving purchase of a property before sufficient consideration is given by the owner to possible desired future land uses, as they may integrate or conflict with local ordinances. Section 13, in addition to our review of the 5 factors and balancing test, we must also determine if the requested variance is the minimum variance necessary and adequate to accomplish what is requested by the applicant, and that also preserves and protects the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. We find the answer to this question is yes, because there are few alternative locations available to place this garage except for in front of the house. For this reason, we believe the variance requested is the minimum variance necessary and adequate to accomplish the applicant's request. 14, based on our analysis of the 5 factors discussed above, we find that the balancing test favors granting of the variance sought. Now, therefore, be it resolved based on the facts and reasoning described above that 1, ZBA hereby grants the variance from zoning law 125-125E, finding that there are very few alternative locations to place the garage except in front of the house. Its location will be partially shielded by vegetation. There will be sufficient distance between the road and the structure so as to present no significant impact or views or neighborhood aesthetics. The granting of this variance is subject to the conditions stated below. Granting of this variance does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits or approvals. The granting of this variance is contingent on construction beginning within 1 year of this resolution. And finally, the granting of these variances shall also be expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow deposits due in connection with this application, in full compliance with Article 14, fee reimbursement of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. These variances shall not be deemed granted until all such fees, this variance shall not be deemed granted until all such fees are paid in full by the applicant. Motion to approve.
Any discussion? I thought that was very well done.
Thank you.
Very well reasoned.
Yeah, I think the reasoning is really well done. That's a very nice resolution.
So any discussions, concerns, comments?
There's just, this is super minor, but there's just 2 13s. So whenever we fill in the blanks on those dates for the planning board response, so just
Yes.
the minimum variance should be 14, and the last paragraph should be 15.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any more discussion? Chris, would you like to poll the board?
Yes, Scott Bergen.
Yes.
Richard Marcolisa.
Yes.
Catherine Clark.
Yes.
Tim Ellenbrook.
Yes.
Dave Price.
Yes.
Who seconded it?
I will.
Okay.
Chris, just a couple of minor, fixes here, so I got them all down.
All right, so next is Ruckerson. You're up.
Okay, I have a resolution. Turn this down a little bit. In the matter of area variance application of John Rutgerson, ZBA case number 961. There's a lot of hum. Whereas, number 1, background. The applicant is John Rutgerson, referred to hereafter as the applicant. This appeal is from the town of Rhinebeck zoning enforcement officer's denial. Okay, how about, let's do it on Venturale. Property involved, the applicant owns 3 contiguous parcels on Route 9. This appeal involves property located at 6269 Route 9 in the town of Rhinebeck, and which bears the tax parcel number blah, blah, blah. The applicant's property for the proposed project is .62 acres in area and is located in the RC5 zoning district. 3. Representation. The applicant is represented by is represented before this board by himself and his attorney, Sean Kemp. 4, the applicant's project is described as follows. Construct a 2-story barn that would measure at a maximum 30 foot by 40 foot. Ground level would be used to store farm vehicles and equipment. The second floor would be used as an office and include a full bathroom with shower and additional storage space. The second floor will not be used as a dwelling unit or habitable space. 5, the applicant requires 1 area variance. The area variance sought by the applicant is for the barn's side yard setback per zoning law regulations pursuant to Section 125-49. A minimum of 50 feet is required in the RC5 zoning district. 12 feet is proposed by the applicant for a variance of 38 feet. 7, timeliness of appeal. The applicant filed an appeal with this board on March 22nd, 2018, and has paid the requisite fee. The appeal was filed within 60 days of the date of the ZEO revised decision appealed from, and thus the application is timely as required by Section 125-125B of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. Acceptance of application as complete. On April 18, 2018, this board deemed the application to be complete and accepted for review by this board. Secret. After accepting this appeal, we determined that this matter should be classified as a Type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Act, secret. Because the project involves agricultural farm management practices, including construction of farm buildings, as 6 NYCRR Section 617.5C3. No further review is required pursuant to secret. 10, public hearing scheduled referrals and responses. We scheduled a public hearing for May 16, 2018, and directed the secretary to provide notice of the public hearing in accordance with the requirements of Section 125-125D of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law, and to refer the application to the following: Dutchess County Planning Department. We determined that this application was required to be referred to Dutchess County Planning and Economic Development, County Planning, pursuant to Section 239-M of the New York State General Municipal Law and Section 125-125E, Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. The application was referred to County Planning on April 23, 2018. County Planning responded on May 9th with no comments, matter of local concern. Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board. As required by Section 125E of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law, this application was referred to the Town Planning Board on May 7, 2018. Town Planning Board responded on May 14, 2018 with the following comments and recommendations. The Planning Board has identified no significant planning or environmental issues that would be caused by the ZBA's granting of the requested area variance and undertaking of the applicant's proposed project. The above notwithstanding, the Planning Board asks the ZBA to carefully consider any input received from neighboring property owners and several criteria for granting area variances as set forth in Section 125-124C1 and 2 of the zoning law prior to deciding this case. The Planning Board notes that the project is a matter that involves, in addition to the requested relief from ZBA, site plan approval and/or issuance of a special use permit by the Planning Board. Town of Rhinebeck Conservation Advisory Board. We determined that this draft application was not required to be referred to the Town of Rhinebeck Conservation Advisory Board pursuant to Chapter 9, Sections 9 through 9-5A1, 9-5A8A, and 9-6A of the Town of Rhinebeck Town Code, because the application does not propose the use and development of open space. Town of Rhinebeck Waterfront Advisory Committee. We determined that this application was required to be referred to the Town of Rhinebeck Waterfront Advisory Committee, WAC, pursuant to Chapter 118 of the Town of Rhinebeck Town Code, Waterfront Consistency Review. Because of the land upon which the project is proposed lies within the town's coastal area, and because the proposed action is not a minor action as is defined in Chapter 118. The town WAC Waterfront Advisory responded on April 30th, 2018, and does not anticipate any area of concern with the request for the 38-foot side yard setback variance, but noted the following comment. Though it is disappointing that trees will be felled for the structure, we understand the importance of keeping the agricultural area open for cultivation. Site visit. On April 30th, 2018, ZBA members Catherine Clark and Timothy Allenbrook visited the applicant's property and the surrounding neighborhood to observe firsthand on-site conditions, property characteristics, setting, surrounding environment, and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. The purpose of this site visit was to observe the property and the surrounding area and to inform the board members for the upcoming decision. Site visit was conducted solely to gather information, and no business or deliberations were conducted during the site visit. Public hearing. Public hearing on this appeal was duly advertised and held at Town Hall on May 16, 2018, and continued to July 18, 2018. Several comments were received regarding the current visual condition of the property. A letter of support was received from Dr. Ronald Whitmont, which noted an agricultural barn would significantly improve the appearance of this property if it were also used for housing farm equipment, tools, and supplies. Mark Stapleton expressed concern with the visual condition of the property, as it is one of the first properties that can be seen as one enters the village. Sharon Sherrod expressed concerns on the untidy visual condition of the rear of the property, including a large parked truck on the premises. Mr. Rogerson noted that the barn would help improve the aesthetics of the property. ZBA counsel and the applicant discussed the usage and purpose of the barn, proposed size of the barn, roof height, parking, equipment being stored, septic, well, and how the office and the bathroom sink shower will be used. There will be no kitchen or bedroom in the barn. ZBA requested a sketch of what it will look like on the inside, what will be stored in the barn, the back of the barn, and a revised site plan. Balancing test. Section 3, findings of fact. Findings of fact and conclusions of law. Balancing test. In our review of the variance sought, we have considered the benefit to the applicant if the area variance is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. We determined that the variance requested should be granted because there is no detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by the granting of this variance. Consideration of 5 factors in balancing test. In our review of the variances sought and consideration of the balancing between the benefit to the applicant as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community, we have considered 5 factors required by Section 125-124C1 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law as follows. A. If the variance is granted, will it cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment to nearby properties? We find the answer to this question is no. Currently, the property has the equipment and the machinery located out in the open. The addition of the barn will allow the applicant to move to more attractively store and/or screen his equipment, thereby providing a positive change to the character of the neighborhood. The equipment will be stored more aesthetically and undercovered for both the benefit of the public driving along Route 9 and the applicant in protecting his equipment. B, can the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance? We find the answer to this question is no. Siting the barn further south, so as not to require an area variance, would result in removal of a stand of mature oak trees. The barn also must be of a certain size to properly and efficiently store farm equipment and machinery. C, is the requested area variance substantial? We find the answer to this question is no. The barn will be modest in size when compared to the overall plot of land, including the cultivatable area. The barn will mirror the location of the existing house on the adjacent lot, which is also owned by the applicant, and will provide a symmetrical view of the house and barn. D, will the proposed variance have an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? Find the answer to this question is no. In fact, if managed reasonably, it should have a beneficial impact to the visual character of this small farm. E, is the alleged difficulty self-created? I find the answer to this question is yes. The applicant should have been aware of existing zoning setbacks. Although this is not an agricultural use, such uses and structures are not exempt from zoning setbacks. 15, minimal variance requested. In addition to our review of the 5 factors and balancing test, we must also determine if this requested variance is the minimum variance necessary and adequate to accomplish what is requested by the applicant, and it also preserves and protects the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. We find the answer to this question is yes, because enlargement of the side yard setback will move the proposed barn into the stand of oak trees. 16, result of the balancing test. Based on our analysis of the 5 factors discussed above in consideration of having the minimal variance requested, we find that the balancing test favors granting of the area variance sought. Now therefore be it resolved, based on all the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above as follows. Section 1. The ZBA hereby grants, please strike denies, the variance from the zoning law, section 125-49, finding that the benefit to the applicant does not outweigh the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or the community by such a grant. Our decision is supported by a balancing of the 5 factors below. A, the requested variances will not result in an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood because it will improve the good current visual conditions of the property, which has the farm equipment and vehicles out in the open. In addition, the barn will help store these vehicles and equipment in a more aesthetic and practical manner and provide an improved visual aspect to the property. Granting the area variance will not create a detriment to the nearby property, since the variance will allow the appellant to better store equipment and supplies out of sight. Should appellant be changed to?
What, Tim, I'm going to propose that, I don't think we need the A through E at this section, because it's just really repeating.
It's very repetitive.
Yep, what was done above, so, above it just says, based on all the facts described above and based upon the reasoning above, we decide as follows. So I think we can drop that out and
Okay.
go straight to section 2.
Should we consider that as a general
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
that would
update
be,
the template?
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Section 2, the ZBA grants the variance from zoning law, section 125-49, subject to the conditions stated below, period. Grant shall allow a 12-foot side yard setback at the north side of the proposed 30 by 40-foot barn. Granting of these variances shall also be expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment of the town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow accounts, escrow deposits due in connection with this application in full compliance with Article 14, fee reimbursement of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. These variances shall not be deemed granted until all such fees are paid in full by the applicant. Section 4. The granting of this variance is expressly contingent upon the following conditions as agreed by the applicant. 1, the barn will not be used as a dwelling unit. There shall be no bedrooms or units that would be rented, leased, or lived in for habitation purposes. The barn shall only be used for storage and office use. There shall be no kitchens within the barn. 2, the barn shall be used for the owner's use only. There will be no rental or lease of the office space and no residential use within the barn. 3, all commercial equipment to be stored outside shall be neatly arranged behind the proposed barn. 4, there shall be no storage of materials or supplies of any kind within the front yard setback except as permitted by the zoning law. 5, storage of commercial equipment, materials, or supplies other than specifically for the owner's farm use shall not be permitted. 6, any driveway expansion shall be subject to town planning board approval. Section 5, the granting of the variance does not absolve the applicant from having secured any other required permits and/or approvals. The proposed structures must be constructed in conformity with the application and plans submitted. area variance shall be null and void unless the proposed construction is commenced within 1 year of this resolution.
Again, well done, and in particular, Section 4. I like that. I know that the applicant agreed to all those items, and I think it gives us a certain
Well, I think it's
feeling
helpful
of-
to put it back
Yeah.
instead of lost in the normal text.
Yeah, and setting it out specifically, I know there's a record that has been made where he's agreed to all this stuff, but having in the resolution gives me a certain comfort level, so
And I'm
I
delighted.
thought that was well done.
To drop section A, B, C, D, E.
right.
I mean, it's totally repetitive.
Do you want to make a motion?
No, you make the motion.
I make a motion that, subject to the changes suggested by John, that is striking the various sections A through, was it A through E?
C in section 1.
In Section 1, that the resolution be adopted. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion by anyone? No?
I
Okay.
just want to say, I think, again, this was a very well-drafted resolution. I think that this application presented some difficulties, particularly with regard to getting the applicant to a point where, you know, the information that was before the board was specific enough for the board to be comfortable about making the decision. And I think there were a few moving parts with regard to this that I think were well addressed in the decision and also in the conditions. So I think the board did a really good job on this.
Thank you.
I think we should be aware that this condition, that section, and there are often cases where
No, I agree.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I want to tell you something else also that happened recently we're changing the planning board, the standard language in the planning board site plan and special use permit approval resolutions to include a provision that says that any conditions that have been placed on a variance granted by the zoning board of appeals also becomes a condition to the site plan and special use permit approval. So we'll be incorporating into the planning board decisions any conditions that you place on the variances here at the ZBA. So those conditions are important, and the planning board's listening.
And it's not as rare as it used to be. It seems that we're
No.
having more and more of these applications which really require a commitment on the applicant's part and then requires us to set forth in the resolution, so.
Right, especially given the degree of substantiality that you're seeing in some of the applications that are coming before the board.
Right. All right, then. Chris, would you like to poll the board?
And Catherine.
Catherine.
Scott Bergen.
Yes.
Kathleen Clark.
Yes.
Richard Martin.
Yes.
Dave Spines.
Yes.
Amy Allen.
Yes.
All right, well done. That's all we have on the agenda. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed, John? Kim?
Nope.
I have one more, I don't know if you saw the email, but when you sent that guideline around, I posted back a question on whether and how easy we have searchable decisions.
Well,
We don't.
we don't. We are working toward that. I mean, certainly Grant and Lyons has a pretty good record for so long as we've represented the board. Your precedent applies when similar circumstances are presented, and so, no.
Tricky to-
Well, it's
If-
not easy because there was never cataloged in the past. I mean, I've been on for
Right.
15 years. I know that probably only recently, hopefully, we're starting to catalog similar cases and put them under.
Well, they're definitely searchable, you know, they're in a format that's searchable. I think the other thing that you will concede from, if you go back far enough, is I'm not sure how helpful the actual text of the ZBA decisions would be to you. The format that was used in the past was typically much contain much less detail.
Right. I guess I'm really just thinking about being able to search the few, what I would think would be the few cases where we rejected a proposed variance, because those were the ones, right? If we're approving 93% of variances, we don't really need to check those, but it's the 7%.
Well, not
there was-
necessarily,
Yeah,
because I think that if,
Flat.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, if we just even started with the few percent of deals that we rescinded or rejected,
yeah.
then maybe.
Kind of
we
know
at
what
least
to
have-
look for.
Yeah.
If something needs to be denied.
Yeah, because we have all limited time, no one's going to go back and start to use keywords for every
Right,
decision ever
right.
made.
But I think your comment is a good one to the extent that there has to, like, for instance, the first application that was in front of the board tonight, guest room, in our community, given the amount of hospitality use that we have, and who knows whether there's regulation for short-term rentals coming as well, that is an issue that may come up again, and your decision, you're going to have to care about precedent with that decision, and then also there'll have to be a consistency of application of the interpretation going forward.
Right, so really, it sounds like rejections and interpretations would be pretty useful to
Yes.
have
Yep.
some sort of record.
Typically, variances present so many individual factors that they end up really being just a
Unique.
case-by-case
Yeah.
basis. Yep.
And I think we do have one, since John and I were counsel, where a variance was rejected, so we do have that decision. We can always pass that around to the board if they're interested. And we do have 2 interpretations, at least 2, so we can always pass those around just so you can see what to
I'd like to get a
look.
copy of the most recent interpretations we've had, just to...
Sure.
Since I'll be
Remind
doing
ourselves.
this. Well, yeah, it's a little different animal.
Yeah, I mean, one was Red Wing, which is a little, anomalous in a sense because of the type of
Question posed.
issue that was presented, because, interpretations can be, sometimes they can present a question that requires deciding what a particular provision of the zoning law means, but other times the interpretation is just an appeal from a decision of the zoning enforcement officer that has nothing to do with the meaning of the law directly, so, but we'll gather those up and circulate those, and
And if there's any case law on that issue, that'd be great. I mean, I don't know that there is. Like in Red Wing, you knew there was. 'Cause
Yes.
that's a topic that's been brought up throughout the state,
yep.
and that was very helpful.
Yeah, I, like I said, we will look around for that, because what happens too in the drafting of zoning laws is that there's lots of borrowing of language that goes on. And so there is some commonality to terminology. Again, hospitality is the kind of use that there's a lot of it. And so we may be able to find something.
Okay, that'd be great.
So we'll look around. And
Okay.
as we did in Red Wing, at some point, we'll probably provide a little guidance memo to you, just talking about the rules, so that when you start listening to, hopefully before the 19th of September, so that when you are listening to testimony, you can have that framework operating in the background.
Yeah, that'd be great.
There will be, I don't know how familiar you are, but this project there have been a couple of different iterations of this project. This is the old, the former Daytop facility. And there is quite a bit of interest in the project in terms of the folks that live in the area up there. So that's part of the reason why, Victoria said that they're here. And so, I expect that you will be getting some comment from the public when the time comes for the
Now, I
hearing.
saw something about 28 condominium units in addition.
Yes.
It's going to be
Yep.
subdivided. I think the planning board's project includes a subdivision, so the 28 condominium units are not before this board. This board's question is solely on the definition of guest rooms in the one building.
When one makes a presentation, should not one present the whole project, or is this a separate?
Well, here's
I
the
know
thing,
the
here's the thing, the application that's in front of the planning board is really only at the very formative stage.
Okay.
I don't even know whether it's been accepted as complete or not
don't know.
yet. So,
Oh, it must have been if they're potentially doing a public hearing.
yes, that's true. But this represents at best a proposal over at the planning board. Doesn't mean that that's where the project is going to go.
And to their credit, in their application, they did mention that, I think, so.
Yep.
Good.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
a motion
You-
to adjourn. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I'm really impressed with the decisions you guys are writing. It's really, really nice, so thank
Well,
you.
Kim cleans them up so
Yeah.
well that,
Yes.
you know.
I don't have to
you
do
know,
too
come
much
on,
work,
I
though.
mean,
No, but we're really,
We
you know,
can
when
do
we're going through and reading the decisions, you know, I'm just saying to myself, you know, the information that needs to be there and the decision is there.
And I'll
So-
say there's certainly a lot of information in there, a lot of improvement from when we first started doing this template to now, so.
And I think the thing that I like about this is that, you know, anybody can pick up those decisions and understand what you're doing, understand the task that you know, what the review entails and what rules applied and how you came out to the decision that you did. So anyway, I think I'm really proud of the work you're doing.
Well, thank you. They're also defensible in court,
Yeah.
which is another
Oh,
nice thing.
That's right.
Yep.
All right, well.
And also, I will say, good quality actually discourages the possibility of
That is true.
litigation, so.
That is true. All righty, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can stay.
All right.